You have probably heard the encouragement to do it as if unto the Lord. Or in other words, do it as if you're doing it for God. But when we make it an encouragement, we minimize it and we miss something absolutely profound. And as a consequence, it causes us to minimize and often not recognize the opportunities in our life. Now, to understand it, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. That in God's perfect environment, his original plan, he took Adam and he placed him in the garden. He placed him in the thing that he had created and he called it good. And then he gave him this mandate to tend it and to keep it. Now, we interpret the word tend as work. But God intended work to be something so much more profound than just effort. In fact, that same word for work is also the word for worship. That when the priests entered the tabernacle, when they were worshiping, it's that same word as work. That work can be worship. And what makes the difference? Is it automatic? Or is it how we approach it? It's the recognition that we approach work as if we're doing it for God. And if we do it with the right attitude, by faith and understanding our position, it becomes profound worship to God. It not just glorifies God, the act itself is a form of worship. So let's break it down. And these are just three insights. And the first is attitude, that we have to approach it not as something that has to be done, but rather that we are doing it for God. And we come with that approach, that this is us acting as God's representative in that environment, but also by faith, that it's not us there alone, that whether we always recognize it, that the Holy Spirit is there with us, that literally God desires to impact. We talk about it so often. He wants to beautify, bless, increase, create life and hope. And it's not always or necessarily through our efforts as much as his grace, his Holy Spirit working through us in profound ways. And that's the faith approach. It's the recognition that we don't have to figure it out. We're there to represent him. That in our faithfulness and application of faith, he works. He does the impossible. He does what we could never achieve ourselves. And that glorifies him, but our acting is worship. But number three is position. There's something profound as it ties it all together. That you know that you have been equipped for your works of ministry. Now, ministry gets this connotation of something very spiritual. But the definition means acts of service. But it actually is really spiritual because the context is, the idea is underneath it, underpinning the whole thing is that you're God's intermediary. That you are there as the intermediary between God and the company, and the people, and the situations, the circumstances, the challenges. You are there as God's intermediary. And that's your work of ministry, your form of worship during the week. God is calling you to do it as if unto him, to transform what needs to be done into a form of worship and allow in the process God to glorify himself, that God would bring the results. One just quick example before we wrap it up. Think about Jacob and Laban. Laban was continually cheating Jacob. But despite that, Jacob's works blessed Laban. And as a consequence, Laban finally realized, God has blessed me for your sake, which is a lesson for another time. Transform the assignments in your life, work, relationships. Transform all of them from something that needs to be done to the opportunity to worship God in a profound way. And watch God work. So the question becomes, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What's the first challenge that you can approach as if unto the Lord?